Good morning, Craig here, Largo, Florida. I wanted to talk about some of the plants that I have here on this vacant lot. Plants that I let grow or have planted for the purpose of supporting wildlife. I'll just do a little, basically it'll just be a little garden tour. Here's frostweed. You can see frostweed, it's just blooming now. Just loaded with all kinds of pollinators. It's really nice. I guess you'd call it a wildflower. It'll get probably 6-8 feet tall on average. Some of these have gotten close to 9 feet tall. You can see them. And they like to live in, it seems like here anyhow, they like to live in part shade. Got them under these sable palms. But they're really nice. And they pop up everywhere. And they get seeds too. Not only do they support pollinators with all the flowers, but they get some really nice seeds and have a lot of nice really tiny birds, migratory birds that come through, and they're doing little acrobatic tricks just to pick the seed. Here's a porterweed. This is the non-native porterweed, considered invasive in Florida. So I don't recommend it, but I don't have the heart to get rid of it because I have all kinds of interesting pollinators that enjoy it, and I don't find it to be that invasive. But there is a native porterweed, so if you want to get the porterweed, I'd suggest the native porterweed. But this one, as I said, is doing a lot of good work. Here's the tropical sage. These are all common names I'm giving you. There's a lot of more botanical names, but I don't get that fancy. Beautyberry, of course. These are really, really nice to have around. They attract a lot of birds, squirrels, rabbits. I saw a video the other day of a bear eating them. So, and a lot of people will have them, and they'll see that the berries will stay there for a long time, and they'll be like, hey, nothing's eating these berries. But if you watch carefully, the birds and other animals are eating the berries, but there's just so many of them. They're so prolific. I'll show you some other beautyberries that are bigger and even more prolific. And it's just amazing how useful they are in the landscape. And here is let me see if I can zoom back now. This is the firebush. This is a really useful one too. It gets flowers that hummingbirds love and all kinds of butterflies love and other pollinators, bees, and just all kinds of little insects are always buzzing around. Here's one. What is that guy? So many different insects I can't identify, but anyhow, very useful plant. One of my favorite. I don't think any garden should be without firebush. This is the native firebush I got from a native nursery, and there is a non-native type, but I would always suggest the native type. And yes, and not only will it get the flowers, but it will also get berries towards the end of the flowering season. And I've had videos that I've done and shared on Facebook where birds are coming in, eating the berries, and you can see that if you go back to my videos. What is that? Kind of little blue metallic bee flying around here. It's amazing. Some of these bees are fly like helicopters. There's an interesting small metallic yellowish insect. Yeah, there's just a large variety of interesting insects that these plants attract. And that's real important. Insects are the bottom of the food chain, so without insects, we're not going to have birds and pollination. And, they say that the planet would do just fine without people, but would not do well without insects. So here's another beautyberry, a little bit more of a flowering state. I've actually taken a lot of cuttings this year and propagated many of these firebush. Did I call that a beautyberry? I'm not even sure. You have to check the tape. But anyhow, it's a firebush. But I've done a lot of cuttings this year, and I've been spreading firebush as much as possible because it's so valuable. Here's an areca palm. Used to be my favorite, but after I found out as they got bigger that they shed a lot of limbs constantly. So I'm constantly taking the limbs, cutting them up, trying to mulch them up, and it doesn't have a lot of wildlife value. I mean, sometimes they're good for nesting if you don't trim the bottoms out. I know people like to trim the bottoms out, but I'll leave them full because sometimes owls will nest in there. But I would not plant these again. I've got them in a few places around here. If I had it to do over again, if I wanted a screen, I would have planted one of the stoppers, maybe a Spanish stopper, Simpson stopper, Redberry stopper. There's many stoppers, or Walters viburnum, or just a multitude of things I would have planted. But they're pretty big now and give me a lot of shade, and they're pretty wind tolerant. And yes, they do have some good attributes, but I could have put those in I could have put something that would be more beneficial to nature in that spot, but I didn't know at the time. That's probably 20 years ago that I put that in there. But oh, here's a pokeweed. Kind of interesting. Little berries. The birds seem to be able to digest them, but they're toxic to human beings. But I've had as many as 4 mockingbirds on one pokeweed. You know, sometimes they'll all leave the pokeweed alone, and then suddenly one mockingbird will come in and start picking at it, and then all the other mockingbirds show up because, you know, they're competitive. If one guy wants the berries, then they all want the berries. That just seems how it works. Seems to be how it works. Here's another of the beauty berries. This one is this one's got more berries. It's bigger. Here's another one. Look at this. Got an airplane overhead, I think. So we're not close. We're not far from the coast here, so. For some reason, we get a lot of airplane traffic up and down here, private air people. It's Sunday, so probably sounds like a private plane. But anyhow, yeah, here's a big beauty berry. You know, this one's probably 8 feet tall, easy, with some branches going up 10, 11 feet high. So they can almost get like small trees under the right circumstances. But I remember one year that I was, thinking, like other people think that, nothing's eating my beauty berries. And these beauty berries stayed on here. This is September, by the way. I'm at late September 2025. I'm doing this video. And these beauty berries mostly stayed on through most of the winter. And then in the spring, we had a huge migration of robins. And the robins they spent about 2 days here and devoured every single beauty berry on site. So yeah, just don't give up. Have patience. And just remember, just because you don't notice animals eating or enjoying your hard work and the food that you provided them through plants, that doesn't mean that they're not enjoying them. Another fire bush, of course. I've got a lot of young sable palms all along the fence line. I kind of let them pop up. If they pop up along the fence line in a spot where I don't think it'll damage the fence, a foot out or something like that, where they have room to grow, I leave them because they're extraordinarily wind tolerant. And I've read a book one time, a stormscaping book, where they said if you got enough of these around your house, it could help reduce storm damage to a house. I'm not saying that's for sure, because every situation is different, but it's something I go by. But you just have to do your own research on that. But it kind of makes sense to me because they're such beasts. I mean, they're just this big fibrous thing, and you almost never see them go down unless there's difficult situations where the roots are compromised. In wet areas, where they don't have a good solid place to put their roots, but they're pretty tough. And then I remember one year the people on the other side of one person on the other side of the fence was telling me, this tree is pushing against our fence. It's damaging our fence. But you know something? Last year, when we had the hurricane, 6 of these fence panels came down. Not these panels here, not where all these sable palms are. They all stood strong. So yeah, I think that they could be protective. I mean, they could be a problem too if you have them hanging right over your house, or they're right next to your house. But on a perimeter, on a fence line, I think that they have a lot of value. Plus, of course, all the wildlife value. I always leave these boots on. I know if you get these things professionally trimmed, they'll pull these boots off. But I always leave them on because I've had doves nesting in here, like right down in here on a taller one. I've had doves nesting in the palm fronds. And by the way, I never, ever cut off a green frond because palm trees, especially if they're nutrient deficient, will recycle the nutrients out of the green, out of the palm frond as the palm frond is getting older, and it's starting to yellow and to turn gray or brown. It actually pulls the nutrients out of the palm frond into the tree and then into the new palm frond. So if I were to come along here like, so many people do, and, cut these palm fronds off just because they're a little hanging kind of low, or I want to get that look of everything just sticking straight up like a rooster, I don't know, rooster tail or something, then I would end up stealing nutrients every single time from these palm trees. And that's not something I want to do. I want this to be a really strong tree. This really, this video doesn't do it justice, but this thing is a real beast. Just because, and I think some of that is contributed to the fact that I never trim green fronds off. And I just try to treat my trees as natural as possible. I figure these trees have been doing this kind of thing for millions of years, and I don't know better. So when I prune them, even though I try to prune them similar to how they prune themselves naturally in nature. I think when they're young like this, and they almost always maintain the boots when they're young, then the branches will break off and they'll leave some of the boot. And so I try to imitate that, yet try to keep it aesthetically pleasing too, where I try to make them symmetrical all the way around. So I'll leave about a foot on each boot. And then eventually, as this tree gets taller and taller, it'll spontaneously start dropping boots off, because that's what they do. But I don't think, last time I read about it, I don't think anybody really knows why. And by the way, if you're wondering why I'm letting this vine grow on here, this is a corky stem passion vine. You can see the kind of corky stem. As they get older, they get a really quirky looking stem, especially if you get down towards the bottom. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, you can see down there. It's kind of quirky. But I've got these things growing everywhere. I let them grow on trees, and they get little berries like that. And then they spread around, and the birds love them, or squirrels, or little creatures like to take them, and then they run them through their digestive system, and they poop them out right next to the tree, and another one will grow. And it's a real important passion vine too, because there's 3 of our very nice butterflies that live in this area where I'm at here in Largo, Florida, Pinellas County. But 3 butterflies that live in this area. I'm sure they live throughout, but one of them is the Gulf fritillary, and the other one is the the zebra longwing. I think there might have been a name change on that, but anyhow, it's a very beautiful butterfly. And I've been in places where you just won't see, especially the zebra longwing. You won't see them unless you have the host plant, because this is a plant that the zebra longwing will lay its eggs on, and then the babies the eggs will turn into caterpillars, and eventually you'll have these beautiful butterflies. So yeah, there's the zebra longwing, the Gulf fritillary, and what's the last one? Maybe somebody can put that in the comments if you know. But yeah, and you can see it's growing right up the tree nicely, but it's not big enough to do a lot of damage to the tree, or do any damage to the tree really. It's kind of a light vine. So, and these things have grown together in guilds, I guess you would call that, plant communities, for hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of years. So I'm not going to, worry about that. So anyway, let me move on a little bit. Here's some more sable palms. Here's one growing right up under this sea grape. I got this sea grape here. I planted this over there near the fence years ago, thinking, I'll just have this nice little shrub near the fence. But it decided it wanted to be a tree, and it wanted to grow up here all above me. So I'm standing about 20 feet from the sea grape, and it's kind of making like a little cave, which I think is really cool. I walk under it all the time, and it's got the grapes on it. So yeah, I like to, in these trails, I like to make my trails on the property kind of curvy because that's kind of cool and kind of you never know what's around the other side. And I like to let canopy grow over the trails. So I really enjoy myself when I'm here. I don't know what I'm ever going to do with this property, but it's fun. Anyhow, yeah, another beautyberry kind of arching over the trail. Here's the, oh, what's the name of that cherry? It's an invasive cherry, Suriname cherry. I believe that's considered invasive in Florida. But I haven't had the heart to cut it down either because I have seen woodpeckers taking the berries, or the cherries. They get these little cherries on them. And I've eaten these cherries. They say you got to watch out because there could be worms in them, but I just figured, I'm sure I've eaten worms before and not known the difference. So, oh yeah, you know, there's a mulberry tree back here I wanted to take a look at because I've gotten several mulberry trees over the last 3 or 4 years from Pinellas County because they do the tree giveaways like most cities across the country do tree giveaways. Most cities of any size, especially urban areas where we desperately need trees. But here's a nice little mulberry. Oh, let me just back this off again. Here's a nice little mulberry I planted here in this pretty shady area. It's got at least 1 inches in diameter right now, and it's probably 10, 12 feet tall. I planted it about 3 years ago from just a little thing, you know, maybe I don't know, 2 feet tall. But I'm hoping that it'll get some mulberries for the birds. I don't expect to be able to get too many of these mulberries because I'm not here much and the birds are here all the time, but that was the purpose, you know. And I don't know whether this is native or not because I think they give away several varieties. Some of these varieties that they give away here in Pinellas County are from the Middle East, I think, because and I believe, I'm just assuming that they're giving them away because we have very sandy soil here. And similar to what you might have in the Middle East, we also have very long, dry springs and falls, you know, unless we're getting a hurricane in the fall. But they've been pretty tough so far. So I put quite a few in. So let's see here. What else we have here? Oh, there's a better shot of the frostweed. Like I said, wonderful plant, and I don't think I planted any of them. I kind of grabbed a few seeds and spread them around, and that has worked, but for the most part, the birds have moved these around for me nicely. Same thing with the beautyberries and the sable palms. Most everything here has been planted by birds and gopher tortoises and raccoons and every other kind of creature, probably rodents of all sorts, rabbits. I've seen, as I think I might have said, rabbits eat beautyberries. It's kind of interesting. I got this dragon fruit somebody gave me. I just kind of planted it on the ground. I don't know whether it's ever going to get any fruit, but it's kind of cool. It's just kind of scrambling right up this sable palm. It's kind of cool. Let's see what else we got. Oh, there's a sable palm with lots of seeds. Now you know why sable palms pop up everywhere, and they are our state tree, although some people will debate whether they're trees or not, because I guess it's closely related to grass, but they're tough and they work like trees, so they fit my definition of a tree. And the state of Florida thinks they're a tree, so calls it our state tree. I think it might be a state tree in some other state too. Maybe South Carolina, correct me if I'm wrong. Here's a papaya tree. I just kind of threw some seed down here, and this papaya tree grew right up there. It had a bunch of papayas on here about a week ago. I think there's one left, but I imagine a raccoon might have got to it, or some birds or something like that. I've never I don't get much of anything off of any kind of fruiting tree around here. It's all pretty much for wildlife. If I planted one where I live, I could monitor it more, but out here on this vacant land, it's impossible for me to ever get any fruit before they do. Here's another papaya tree that just kind of popped up from some seed that I cast out here. They're doing pretty good. They're partial shade, I'd say, morning sun. Here's some more growing in complete shade, but they're not doing too well. That's not a good environment for a papaya, complete shade. Partial shade seems to be okay for them. Let's see. Oh, here's another mulberry. See, this one's different. Really big leaves, right? And something's enjoying the leaves, which, makes me feel good because, I want to support insects. That's the whole reason behind having everything. So when I see my plants being eaten, that's like, okay, success. Even if they're not eating the fruit, if they're just eating the leaves. Here's another mulberry. Like it's kind of interesting. This has got really small leaves, but some of the newer leaves are big. So it made me wonder what happened. Was this a grafted tree? Maybe the smaller leaves are the old one, and maybe do I have some stuff coming out of the graft below the graft at the bottom, the original rootstock? I don't know. Complete speculation. I haven't looked into it, but just interesting. Come around here, we're going through another one of these sea grape tunnels. Now there's a nice stand of the frostweed. And you could see, the books, I've read about these things. I think they say they'll get about 8 feet tall, but, that's probably an average. But these frostweed, some of these are like 10 feet tall. And I don't know whether you can pick up in the camera, but there's insects all over this stand of frostweed. It's pretty amazing. Come around the corner here. This is the gopher tortoise area. I'll show you some gopher tortoise burrows. I don't see any gopher tortoises out today, but we'll see. And one of the things you might notice, I have everything very dense on this property. Well, when I purchased this property, it was not more than just a green lawn. And over 20 years, a lot of stuff has popped up. For about 10 years, I was very busy. I had a business, and I would almost never got back here. So for about 10 years, it just turned into a jungle. And I had planted a few things, like these sea grapes I did plant, but it turned into a complete jungle, and unfortunately, there was a lot of invasive species, really highly invasive, like carrotwood and Brazilian pepper, China berry, it just on and on. So after I sold my business and retired, I came through here for weeks and weeks, maybe months on end, taking out invasive species, but leaving all the natives or valuable species of plants. And so this is what I ended up with. And now it's just kind of a cool spot, kind of a cool little piece of vacant land. There's a butterfly up on top of that beautyberry. Let me see if we can, I'm sorry, beautyberry. I get all my plants confused. That's a frostweed, of course. Sometimes I'm talking and not thinking. See, the butterfly likes it, but he's outnumbered by all kinds of bees. There's hundreds of native bees in Florida. I think there's over 300 native bees in Florida. We think of bees, we think of the honeybees, which are actually European. And they do a lot of valuable work, of course, the European honeybee, but the most important bee species for us to really protect are the native bees. I think there's, as I said, about 300 native bees. Maybe it might be 30 or so, if I'm remembering that correctly, 30 or so bees that only live in Florida. There are some counties in Florida that have bees that only live in those counties. They're very rare bees. But I think there's something like 4,000 bee species in North America and maybe 20,000 across the world. A lot of this stuff I'm just doing from memory, so feel free to pipe in and correct me because I'm going to misstate some stuff here during this video. I didn't prepare for this. I just came here this Sunday morning and said, hey, this is a good time to do a video. So here I am. Here's a moringa tree. I planted this, got this from a friend who's a really smart guy. He told me one time, this guy, he had a great garden, and he said, Craig, I don't plant anything unless it feeds the birds, the bees, or me. And that was really impactful for me. Even though I like native plants, I don't. This is certainly not a native plant, and the bar that plants have to get over here to be on my property is they have to do one of those three things. Those three things: the birds, the bees, or me, and other little critters too. But they have to be useful and not highly invasive. I do have a few plants here that are classified as invasive, but not the highly invasive ones. I've taken all those out. some of them are, to me, debatable invasives. So, and they have a lot of wildlife value. Here's a aloe. This is one that was growing on my mom's porch, and I didn't know what to do. She passed away a couple of years ago, and I took this over here, and I just kind of just laid them out over here because I thought I'll just put them there for now, but they decided they wanted to live right here. So it was really nice to see that they took root right where I just laid them on the ground without even digging them in. I knew they were tough succulents. I knew it wasn't under the gun to get them underwater, but into the soil. But as it turns out, I didn't even have to do anything. They just did it themselves. But let's take a little walk over here. I know this is a long video, but there's just a lot of stuff to see here. Here's some sea grapes that I planted here years ago, all along this side. I would not do this again, even though I love sea grapes. This is on the southern side of the property. Let me back up here so we can see better. Here's sea grapes here too. But this is on the southern side of the property. So I don't think I would plant tall trees or anything that could get as big as a sea grape on the southern side, because that's taking away some of my winter sun. So when the sun, I'm facing south now, when the sun goes really low in the horizon, some of this here is getting shaded. But the things that are growing under there, like the frostweed, seem to not mind. So maybe I'm making too much of it. But if I had it to do over again, I would have if I was going to rearrange it and do some kind of a garden, a permaculture, whatever, I would definitely put my tallest trees on the northern side and then go shorter and shorter as I move to the south. This way the whole garden could be drenched. But I don't know, but like with gardening, things change, you change your mind, but that's just how I feel this morning. And maybe I'll change my mind. I'll do another video tomorrow and tell you something completely different. Here's a really cool sea grape that I planted. I bought this property in two different lots, actually. So this used to be the corner of the property right here. And so I planted this one sea grape. I thought, oh, good, it'll mark the corner of the property. But it decided that it also wanted to just move along here. And you can see everywhere it touches the ground, it roots again, and roots, and roots. These things can get 50 feet wide. I saw that in a book one time. I said, no, 50 feet wide. Well, they're showing me that they can get 50 feet wide. So if you got an area and you want to just, you don't want to have to mow anymore. You just want to go ahead and just let something that's a highly productive, highly valuable native species for birds and all kinds of wildlife, and you just want that area to just be taken over by sea grapes, definitely plant them and just let them do their thing. I love them. I've never mowed or maintained or done anything under that area for years. And maybe my neighbors don't like them as much, though, I imagine. So I apologize to them for my maybe planting them there. But here's something that just kind of grew up. I'm wondering if this is a strangler fig growing up. Sometimes you see these strangler figs that'll grow under these sable palms, and they kind of wrap up around the sable palm. And so maybe if one of my native plant expert friends are looking at this, you can tell me, is this a strangler fig? It's coming right out the base of this sable palm. So I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, not too many people have a strangler fig. You see them in parks, nature parks, but I think it'd be kind of cool to have a strangler fig here. And again, all these sable palms, they all popped up. I'm sure that a lot of you have sable palms in your yard that you may be mowing on a regular basis. But I would say if you have a spot where they're, away from your house, along a fence line, like I said, I like them along fence lines, or in an area where it's not going to be a problem, they're really nice trees to have. Oh, I was going to show you some gopher tortoise holes. I've actually walked by several burrows during this video, but here's one. Here's a massive one. Look at this one right here. Look at this rascal. This has got to be one huge gopher tortoise. I mean, that hole is probably 18 inches wide. So, I mean, it's probably one of the bigger some of the gopher tortoises that are here are some of the biggest I have ever seen, I'll tell you that. And they've probably been living here for thousands of years, so kind of another reason why I haven't done anything with this property, because, you know, they live here and it's their home. Like I said, I'm assuming for thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of years, you probably had families of gopher tortoises living on this property. So which is kind of cool, and it's something to consider when we're going to, you know, displace them. I mean, if I ever build something here, I can tell you for sure, be very careful to let them remain and live their life. Here's a, let me come over here, and this tree here, this oak tree, I've talked about this before on the last time I did a garden tour video here. It's about 25 feet tall. Let's see how big it is, thick it is. Kind of see. I planted this shortly after I got this lot, maybe 20 or so years ago. And I got it, it was no bigger than, well, a pencil. I was going to pick up a branch and show you. It was no bigger than a pencil, and I got it from the St. Petersburg Green Thumb Festival. And I think it was $5 at the time. Now they're selling for $15, which is still a very good bargain, because at the Green Thumb Festival, they sell the best trees. I mean, I've gotten trees at cities or counties before, but at the Green Thumb Festival, they sell trees that are not oversized for the pot, which is something you will almost always get when you go to a tree giveaway. I know in my city, when they give away trees, at least, you know, every time I've seen them, they were way oversized for the pot. And which, you know, then you end up with some real root bounding issues. So anyhow, that's they're really good. And as a matter of fact, last time I got a tree there at the Green Thumb Festival, it was in what they call an air pot, which keeps the roots from getting bound, because it's got like slits all along the outside. So they really know what they're doing. The city of St. Petersburg really knows what they're doing when they supply those trees for the Green Thumb Festival. And I hope to see that other cities fall in line and stop giving away trees that are way oversized and completely root bound, because, you know, we're probably not getting a great success rate that way. Here's another gopher tortoise right here. You can see they have that classic shape where it's flat at the bottom and round at the top, because they're flat at the bottom and round at the top. And they're usually wide enough for them to turn around, completely turn around. So you can see that one is maybe, I don't know, 12, 14 inches. So this tortoise is probably not as big as that other one we saw over there. Let me see. Let me walk along. Here's another. This gopher tortoise burrow is too hidden in here. I'm going to have to chop back this moringa. But let me see if we can get through here. Oh yeah, there's another one. You can see they go down pretty deep, and they go down in a pretty good angle too. I don't know, I forget the degrees right now, but they go down pretty deep, and they can go down 10 feet deep, and these burrows can be 25 feet long. Some have been found even longer, but that's, I think, on an average like 10 feet deep and 25 feet long. They usually like high and dry areas, although I think there's a barrier island along here where they are also, you know, doing their, living their lives. So I don't know exactly how that works. We're up on a sand hill. We're near the coast, yet we're about probably close to, or right on average, 30 feet above sea level. Let me see. Oh, here's some rouge plant. Getting close to the end here, but there's just a few plants here I just got to show you. Here's a rouge plant. Kind of cool. It gets a red berry. I guess it gets the flower first, as plants usually do. Gets a little white flower, and it loves to grow in the shade, and the birds take the seeds and they move them all around. There's another gopher tortoise burrow. There's so many around here. I'm not going to show you all of them. This is definitely one of the most densest gopher tortoise colony I've ever seen in my life. Right here, there's at least a dozen burrows on this one lot. Or it's a double lot, but it's at least a dozen burrows. What else has more? Oh, here's a well, I used to call it a marlberry, but it's easier to say marbleberry. I think both are good, but this is a little guy I planted, and I'm going to show you one that's in flower right now. But oh, here's a bunch of your rouge plant, which is kind of cool. Rouge plant. I think somebody said that maybe the Indians used to use this for some kind of coloring or something like that, because maybe when you burst these berries, it has a rouge color. And by the way, I don't recommend. I call them berries, but I don't recommend any humans eat any of these berries that I'm looking at today. That's my disclaimer. Nothing here is edible. Period. End of subject. And if you want to eat anything in the wild, you got to go out with an expert, and I'm not an expert, but you can go out with a local expert who can help you determine what is edible and what's not. But as far as I'm concerned, nothing here is edible for humans. We have a different digestive system than birds, so birds can eat a lot of this stuff, and they do eat a lot of this stuff. And then there's some stuff here that's even more dangerous to ruminants, like a cow or something like that. Because they have such an efficient digestive system, like this, what is it, the cherry laurel tree. If a ruminant were to eat those leaves, they can get very sick, sometimes die, because they have such a good digestive system. And yes, this is another marble berry. It's flowering right now. Let me smell it. Can you smell it? Smell that. Yeah, isn't that nice? So the marbleberry is a good, valuable species, beautiful species. It can grow in the shade. You can see it's very shady here. So I don't think it wants to grow in complete shade, but just through the dappled sunlight of this little hammock area here, it's very, very happy, and makes me happy to look at it. So. Let me see. So much more. I'm not going to look at everything. We're actually getting close to the end here. Hang in there, or maybe take a break and come back later. Let's see here. I think that's, is that everything? I got the marbleberry, got the pokeweed. Here's some penta. Here's some pink penta. These are not native to Florida, but they're very valuable. I've had hummingbirds on these. I do have hummingbird plants here like this that are not native. Let me see here. Yeah, so I like to have a variety of plants for hummingbirds, because they like to bounce around. They'll go to my the firebush, if the firebush are blooming at the time. Sometimes in the spring, during the spring migration, my firebush are not up and running. They're not flowering at the time, I should say. In the fall migration, when they're coming through Pinellas County in August, September, the firebush are ready for them. But in the spring, sometimes March and April, when they're coming through, there's no firebush. So I have some of these non-natives, like the penta or the fire spikes. Matter of fact, I did want to show you the fire spike. Let's go look at the fire spike. I think I got one or two more plants, and then we're going to end this video. And let's see here. I want to show you the fire spike, and that is, again, not a native, but it is, if you follow the Hummingbirds in Florida Facebook page like I do, you'll see that whenever they're doing shots of hummingbirds on plants, feeding on plants, you'll usually see the firebush, which is right here. This is one of the most popular one. It's probably the most valuable because they get really big if you let them, and so it can supply a lot of food for a hummingbird. But they also really love these fire spike. These right here, and you can see why. I mean, they are just really cool, and they have a long tubular flower, which is very good for the hummingbird. So this is one of the most popular ones, but it is not native, but it's not invasive. Well, in my opinion. Last time I said that, somebody said, yes, it is. Go look over here near this lake in this park where they're growing like crazy. So yeah, I guess they can be aggressive. I'm not sure if they're on an invasive list or not, but I don't consider them a problem. But and then there's you know what? Let's just walk around here. I'm going to show you the last plant. I actually showed you a tropical sage already, but over here on the other side, there's a tropical sage. There's a pink one and a red one, and they're really cool. So I think, and as a matter of fact, I've never planted a pink one, but I think that they sometimes change colors somehow. Oh, here's a loquat, by the way, and I didn't plant it here. Somehow the bird planted it here, but I do notice that squirrels and birds like loquats, so I've left it because it falls under the category. Got to feed the birds, the bees, or me. Of course, we don't want to leave out the butterflies and the moths and all the other important moths. Moths are, kind of funny. I say moths. A lot of times we think of moths as pests, but they're not. Well, maybe they are to some people, but they're very valuable to birds. And if you took out all the moths, you'd lose a lot of songbirds. But anyhow, yeah, here's that the pink tropical sage. So these have all. I think I just planted one red here, or maybe none. I can't even remember whether I planted anything here, but I know I've never planted a pink. But I got a bunch of pink somehow. But they spread. Here's about a lot of these. I'm not sure if these seeds are already spent or not, but they spread pretty good, pretty quick. Oh, look at that. I lied to you because I got one more plant to show you. One more, two more. Yep, I'm going to show you the beet sunflower. Really nice. And I don't know if you can see insects swarming around the beet sunflower. This whole area here, it's kind of another little area where I've got things planted thickly, or thickly. Is that a word, thickly? Yeah, it's thickly. Yeah, I guess that's right, thickly. Sounds like bigly. But anyhow, here is a blanket flower. These are very popular, and they'll spread for you too. You just have to get one and put it in an area. Don't overwater it. Just give it a little water when you first put it in. And what I do in a lot of these native plants, I'll water it a couple of times when I first put it in, the first few days, and then I just watch it. If it starts to droop, I give it a little bit more water, right? And then I don't water them until they droop, because if I water them before they droop, then I might be watering them and I'm going to die. So, yeah, I'm going to die too, but they're going to die. But so that's it. I think that's all the plants. I do have some. One thing I should show you, that was a Brazilian pepper. I killed it off by girdling it. It's kind of hard to see because this beauty berry's kind of taken over. But I didn't want to just completely, cut the whole thing down, because a dead tree, even if it's an invasive tree, is valuable. And I've had so many birds and woodpeckers, and it's been, owls sitting up here, doves. Everybody's enjoying this tree, all of my little friends. And plus, as it was dying off, as it dies off, it releases nutrients to the native trees that I have coming up underneath it, or the native plants like this beauty berry coming up underneath it, and this sable palm coming up underneath it. And that's it. I'm all the way back around where we started, but I forgot the pine tree. I got that pine tree years ago at the Green Thumb Festival in St. Petersburg also, and it's very happy there. So we'll end with the beautiful pine tree. So that's it. Until next time, y'all have a great day.